So I am here with Coy, who's one of our second year students for an aspect of the program that we've added in this year. So I wanted to take a few minutes just to talk with you and hear about your experience and some of the things that you've been studying. So I guess maybe we should start with what made you make the decision to keep studying with Art Seminary?
I feel like the first thing is after finishing the first year, which I did twice. I did the first year 2 times because I don't think I guess you could say I'm stupid, so I didn't get it through the first time. It took a second time taking it. No, but I've developed such a routine and love for studying and just having my kind of feet in something for those 2 years. And so I was like, I don't want to really give that up. I want to keep just being in these the readings and the discussions with people. So just the practice of it was so formational that I was like, I don't feel like I can operate correctly without keeping that going. And then secondly, the foundation that the first year gave me lent itself honestly to more questions than answers, which I think is fantastic. And I was like, I have so much left to explore. And so it just seemed like the natural progression to go on and do the second, third, and then fourth and fifth year when I started at WTC. So yeah, I just it would have been harder to say no than yes.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's great. So I'd love for you to give, from your perspective, an overview of what it's like to do the second year. And what classes are like, and just kind of explain that for people. That.
Well, obviously with the first year, we touched those 4 big subjects, story of the Bible, church history, applied theology, and then theology of wonder, which are kind of broad scope, more meta-narrative kind of subjects. And then so far for year 2, we've kind of dove into more specific subjects and spent more time kind of in the weeds of those subjects. So the first one we did was Christian formation, so kind of the practices and the ways that we live out the faith, that our discipleship. And then we are currently finishing up the second one, because you just do 2 per year, which is Christian doctrine, practicing Christian doctrine, and a broad scope of Christian doctrines kind of in an ecumenical way, all the way that all Christ in the church has kind of seen those doctrines throughout the years. Practically how that looks, it's all online. So we're doing, the day kind of changed between the 2 classes, but we have a night session with, through Seminary Now, we all meet up. It's usually about 7:30 and do about an hour and a half class with our group to kind of, it's almost like our integration group. The classwork is throughout the week kind of at your own pace. And then our integration group is at 7:30, and then as well as one with you on 7:30 in the morning, usually the next day. Which I really like. I like how it's kind of go at your own pace. You can kind of, which is similar to year 1, kind of create your work schedule throughout the week at your own pace, which is great for me because I usually do it right before I'm supposed to go into class. But yeah, that fully online is really freeing, and it's been great too, because also you have our year 2 class, which is 5 of us, and then there's usually 6 other people in the class that we don't know, so it's fun to interact with those people and get a lot of different backgrounds, just takes on things. You have people from all over the world. You have people in Canada, other places in the U.S. Some people are Catholic raised, or some people Protestant raised, so it's a wide scope of opinions, which is really fun to mingle with. And I'm all for being pushed and prodded on certain things that I'm kind of used to.
That's great. I love the Christian doctrine class that you're going through now is just, I think, the best next step after what we're doing in year 1 at the moment, which is theology applied. That kind of gives you, like you said, a broad overview. This one's getting more specific. Are there any areas of Christian doctrine that you're I feel like this is one that I'm really kind of drawn to and want to look at and explore further in my study in the future?
I think there's a couple. We haven't done it yet, but I'm looking forward to the eschatology one. That's the final one. That's next week. That's probably what I'll write my paper on, because that's always tends to be the most interesting to me. I'm very interested in practical theology, and I think eschatology is like one of the most practical ones because the way we see the future influences how we act now, and I'm very interested in like what the doctrines that affect how we act now, because some of them can be a little, I guess, heady for me. Like we just did pneumatology, so like to study the Holy Spirit, and like it's like so interesting, but also I'm like this is such a big scope topic. I don't really know what to do with it all the time.
Yeah.
So eschatology has been one I've been really interested in. I think the doctrine of sin was a good one to talk about. I came from a very Southern Baptist context, very turn or burn, fear tactics upbringing, which kind of coming out of that, looking back on that retroactively, I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of holes in that way to present theology.
Yeah.
So I think coming at the sin topic with a new distance from fear tactics has been really interesting.
Yeah.
And just eye-opening in the way that we should operate. And I think of like the Screw Tape Letters, like that book, the way it gives us the back-end view of like things that are happening to us and the way that we're being like tempted or prodded in certain ways. And I think that a good understanding of like sin and the way that that has formed us is
a cool
good to
connection.
like counter. It's good to know what not to be, you know, so that you can live correctly.
Yeah.
So I think that was really interesting.
Yeah, and then so you're doing the second year program, and then what's cool is the first, second, and third years are all going to be meeting in Oxford again.
Yeah.
And you're now basically a local to Oxford.
I know, it'll be my third time.
Yeah, so that's cool. And maybe share what you were telling me about the Chronicles of Narnia.
So the first year I went to Oxford, which was 2 years ago now, there's this beautiful bookshop in Oxford called Blackwell's, which is like, they had the Guinness World Record at some point for like most, like biggest bookshelf in a single room or something like that.
Yeah, continuous bookshelf or something.
Massive.
Yeah.
So every year I've gone to that store and picked out. First year I got the first Chronicles of Narnia book, and then I got the second one, so I'm working through all 7. So hopefully I'll go there 7 times and get all those. And then I'll probably have to pick another book series to start collecting from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Prince Caspian's up next.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get that one this summer.
That's so good. And yeah, what would you say about the Oxford trip and that whole experience of the week there?
I feel like I liken it to like the best summer camp you've ever been to, but you're an adult now and you're on the other side of the world. Like it's like summer camp premium.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like I had no other experience like that in life, where it's just like you and all your best friends in these buildings that are older than the country I live in, and talking theology, going to the pubs afterward, best bookshops. It's just like everything I've ever wanted in life.
Yeah.
So that's why I intend to go at least 7 times. I think like the highlight for me has just been like some of the speakers we've gotten.
Yeah.
Like the way that David Bennett we had last year has just resonated with me throughout the year. Has just been like, I think of it all the time. Like the speakers we've had have just been so formative. I mean, John Lennox, when we had him the first year, was just like, that'll be something I'll be telling the grandkids about. So it's just a once in a lifetime thing that we're doing every year. Which is incredible.
That's so good. And then, so returning to the second year program for a minute, like you said, I get to have some time with you guys as well every week. And one of the kind of assignments that I gave you guys was to choose a kind of theological figure to study. And do you want to explain who you chose and why you chose them to study?
Yeah, so obviously there was like a lot of good contenders. When you just broad scope pick a theologian that sounds interesting to you, like dive into their work and give a presentation on them, like there were so many that like crossed my mind. But I'm a really big fan of like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien's work. Obviously, who isn't really? But I'm a really big fan of like their imaginative worlds and their just idea of wonder and fantasy and adventure. And they both are people who've pointed backwards to a figure before them, which is GK Chesterton. And so I was like, well, if I love their work, and they're like both saying that. I mean, you told me the quote that C.S. Lewis said all he ever did was pour water into Chesterton's wine.
Add water to his wine.
So I was like, obviously I got to check out this Chesterton guy because it's a name that I wasn't super familiar with. So that's who I started studying. Specifically his book Orthodoxy, which is like kind of his personal conviction towards Christianity and his belief system. And I was just blown away by his work and his life. I just feel like it's a name that like obviously does carry weight in the theological world, but kind of outside of that, you don't hear about him as much as you do at maybe like Tolkien or Lewis. But he is just right there with those guys, if not maybe a step up just in his creativity and his output's incredible. The amount that he has written. But specifically, I think what stuck out to me with him was two things. One, he has a lot of talk about paradox in the Christian world. Like some people call him the Prince of Paradox, which is like the coolest title you could have, honestly.
Yeah.
But his beliefs and ideas of the Christian faith holding things in tension. He says that the Christian faith keeps furious opposites by keeping them both and keeping them furious, like not exchanging one for the other. Yeah. So he talks about like joy and suffering. He talks about like faith and doubt, like these things that it's not one or the other in our life. It has to be both, and leaving room for that can be very freeing. He talks about art as being, there's art and it's like confinement. So it's like it's both this really freeing, expressive thing, but there's also this confinement to it. I was talking about this in seminary like a couple days ago.
Yeah.
He talked about like frames, like picture frames. He's like, you're free to create the art, but it has to stay within this frame.
Yeah.
Or specifically as a funnier one about a giraffe, he's like, if you want to draw a giraffe, like you have to have a long neck on it for it to be a giraffe.
Yeah.
And so it's like that can feel like this restriction thing to your art. It's like, oh, well, my art's not free then. But he's like, your art's actually more free within that confinement. Yeah. So it's that Prince of Paradox idea is just like, was really resonant with me.
Yeah.
And then also just like, I read a lot about how people talked about Chesterton and the way he lived his life. And I think we have this tendency to think of these theologians as like these very stern and like, I don't know, like with themselves kind of people. They're always in thought, But they talk about Chesterton being this very like open, free, like just joyous person.
Yeah.
Always like a joke quick at hand, always like the life of the party, like loved like playing with the children, just being funny. And I'm like, he just seemed to have carried such a joy and like a lightness in life that I want to like steward in myself. Yeah. So that was like really inspiring. Also, like he was such close friends with the people that he openly debated in the theological world. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that was like, that just feels a little far-fetched nowadays. It's like to be in like basically in like theological combat with these people, but also have dinner together and just be buddies on the side. And that's just like, I don't know, I feel like as much as his theological works were inspiring to me, he just seemed like such a good role model. Yeah. And he has a plethora of writings for me to dive into, and like I feel like it'll take my whole life to like really get to the bottom of them, but I'm like excited to go on that journey. Yeah,
it's great that he has works of fiction to look at as well as works of prose.
Yep, I recently just bought a copy of like, it's the complete collection of his like Father Brown, I think. It's like his priest detective series, and it's like, he seems just like a child at heart. Yeah, which is just so, it's so like invigorating.
Yeah, I love how you brought Chesterton, because I was part of the class for Seminary Now on Monday, and you brought in Chesterton to the context of pneumatology, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this assignment, to go specific on a person that then opens up the world of theology, you know, in a specific way. And it was cool that you were immediately doing that with Chesterton. Yeah. So do you have any like more thoughts on that?
Of like bringing Chesterton into the other theology.
Yeah, like how has studying him helped you see the world of theology differently? And you probably touched on it, I guess, at points.
I feel like he carried such a sense of wonder in like a way that's like sitting in this might be the best thing to do. And I think when we especially going through just broad Christian doctrines, there's so much that we don't know how it works. Like the idea of the Trinity, like that, talking about like Trinitarian theology was like, a lot of the best things we can do here is sit in the wonder. Yeah. And I feel like Chesterton demonstrated that so well. And to the point of it being like, this is the way that humans should operate, is in this understanding that God is above us and there's things that we can't grasp at.
Yeah.
And that grasping itself might have been, that's honestly what you could chalk the garden up to. Adam and Eve had been like, I'm grasping for knowledge that wasn't our time to have yet.
Yeah.
And so I think sitting in that wonder that he demonstrated has allowed me to take the pressure off in certain areas where it's like, maybe here where I feel like I've hit a wall is a safe place to be like, okay, well, what's past that is God. And it's for him to either let me see past that at some point, or to just trust in him and grow in my discipleship that way. So I feel like that sense of wonder and right standing before God was important to learn through Chesterton.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, thanks so much for talking.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.